So don't you think that Arlington County would have had the knowledge and the know-how to actually go through this the right way? I think they would have. I think they should have, and they didn't. And why didn't they? Why didn't they? That's the question to ask.
How's it going, everyone? Welcome back to another episode of the Shawn and Matt Show. My name is Matt, that is Shawn, and welcome to our show. Shawn, in today's episode, a judge has overturned the missing middle zoning changes. Shawn, this is breaking news, just happened on Friday. So Judge David Schell ruled against the county on 4 counts, finding that the county failed to adequately consider localized impacts, failed to follow proper procedures, and violated the state tree canopy requirements when adopting the amendments. As of today, the county cannot lawfully issue any more permits under the expanded housing option, which allows for the construction of up to 6 unit buildings on properties that were previously zoned for only single-family homes. Shawn, this is pretty big news, pretty dramatic, sending shockwaves across the county. So what were your first impressions when you heard that the missing middle has essentially been stopped in its tracks?
I was surprised, honestly. I didn't think that it would be. I thought that there was going to be forces against this and that it was going to go through. But my first reaction was, wow, what are the builders going to do? Like that, my first thought went to how. So just so you know, I had a lot of people calling me, or a few clients calling me saying, hey, is this still going to go? Because a builder just bought the lot next to me and they're proposing a duplex. And they just got approval for this. Will this go on? And so I was like, I don't know. That's a really good question. And so I think that's the main thing that went through my mind is what is going to happen to all of these builders that now have, number one, whether you believe it or not, they overpaid for some of these lots because now they could build a triplex on there, which in turn brings them more money. They've now overpaid for these lots. And now they can't do what they were approved to do. And some of these have started building. There's buildings up. What are they going to do to these projects now that Arlington County cannot approve these? And so at first I was like, man, maybe the county will allow them to finish because the county has approved them. Now they're in this pickle. But in talking to certain people closer to the case, basically they're going to need, just because their permit was approved, their main permit was approved, they have to go through many permitting processes. And basically all of those permitting processes are now, you can't get approval because it's illegal. So now I believe all of these are going to have to be redone in some way, or the county could, they could file a motion to disagree with the case. And what's it called? I can't even think. But basically say, hey, we're filing a motion and we're going to argue our point that this should be allowed. So there is still the county's ability to overturn this again. And so maybe these builders will wait. But what if this doesn't happen? And these builders that bought these properties are now in limbo. They're sitting there waiting. They have costs associated with these. They have carrying costs associated with these. They have building costs associated with these. And now they've overpaid for a lot because the county has approved you, thinking that they're going to be able to do this. And everybody knew it was kind of like up in the air. But now these builders are sitting there on land that they overpaid for, in some cases, that they've started building on that they can't get approval for. And now what are they going to do? And I feel like they've got a valid lawsuit themselves against the county, because why would I have to then change now that the county has done this? So I think it's a huge mess as far as if this is actually struck down for the good of, forever, right? And the Arlington County has to now repropose all this stuff. These builders are then stuck waiting until that goes through, which could be years or never happen, or they have to change their schematics and say, all right, now we have to build single families on this.
So after the ruling in Arlington County Circuit Court, a county spokesperson told ARL Now, I'll list and link the article below, the county must void all EHO permits and halt all review processes related to EHO development. So essentially, Shawn, anyone who was contemplating a project is going to have to decide, do I just continue to hold until there's a certainty in path forward, or do I just to do something different, says William Barnes Lawson, a real estate development lawyer in Arlington and Fairfax County. It's possible that some projects will have to be torn down or substantially altered. So essentially, it sounds almost like a stop work order.
Yeah.
Now, I hear what you're saying. These, builders went in, bought properties, and started developing. There was also a lawsuit going on, a current litigation going on when some of these builders were making these decisions. So there's risk involved in real estate. And if you're going to tell me that you're going to build a property while a lawsuit is going on for a proprietary zoning change, and then that zoning change could affect the way that you're going to, finish this project, well, that's the cost of doing business. There are risks involved in real estate. And if you're undergoing a real estate transaction, we see it in condos too. Like if you're buying a condo and they're voting on a special assessment, and then you move in and the assessment is approved, well, there was a chance of that happening beforehand, and now you're left footing the bill. It's the same way with these builders where, all right, there was going to be some sort of issue here with a lawsuit that could affect their project. And so I don't have the same empathy as you do.
Well, think about, and I guess as this project went on and as the lawsuit came about, yeah, you have a point there. But do you remember when we were first talking about this and this was first approved by the county? Remember that first day we're like, whoa, they've already got like 40 or like 30 approvals. So that means that they were already approving before it was actually approved. And so those people, when they were approved and they bought the land for that reason, they didn't know that there was going to be a lawsuit. So that lawsuit came later. And so all those people that bought are now in limbo. And
hope they finish their project.
I feel like they have a lawsuit on their hands, like they could sue the county. I don't know if I'm not a lawyer. I don't know. But like you were promised that you could do this. You were approved to do certain things. And then, oops, sorry, you're not allowed to. That is a huge financial burden on these builders. And so I feel sympathy for them, because if it was me, I'd be pissed, right? And now I have to change my schematics and change everything that I'm doing there. And the smart ones did lay off a little bit, and they said, hey, all right, we bought this land. We could go either way. Let's just hold off until something happens. But it completely changes. And the point here is, number one, the land value did go up because of this. There's no question about it, all right? Builders were overpaying. They were paying more for lots because of this, because they could then build something more. They were then profiting more because they could build 3 townhouses instead of a single family. 3 townhouses at $1.5, $1.6 million instead of a single family at 2.4.
But is that more profit? What project have we seen that's closed, that has sold on the open market, has sold?
It would have been more profit. It's easier. It's cheaper to build 3 townhouses than it is, it's more expensive, but the scale
right.
of
So
it,
we don't have any examples of them actually profiting
we
more.
don't, but I'm sure the builders have done the projections on the actual amounts that they were going to make, because that's what they do. That's why they're in business. And so they were projecting to make more money on those, and they didn't. And now they're going to have to go back after they've paid more for this lot. And hopefully, and the good thing is the values have increased and the single family market is tight. And the new builds, there's not many, so they're still probably sitting okay. But what if they're not? And that's the tough thing about this, is that, it's going to hurt somebody in the end. And right now, I think it's probably going to hurt some of the builders.
Well, this is, all happening within the past week. So those projects that are maybe nearing completion or in the middle of completion or even at the start of construction, we're still trying to understand what the solution there is. So, Shawn, I guess my next question is, in all likelihood, Arlington County is going to appeal this, which, by the way, this, everyone wants to, point blame, like whose fault was this? What it seemed like was, hey, this was fast-tracked. Arlington County maybe missed a couple steps, and the county attorney, who was possibly in charge of covering all their bases to make sure that something like a lawsuit like this wouldn't occur. I think that's where there could have been an issue with crossing the T's, dotting the I's. So county will most likely appeal the decision. The judge basically said, hey, you didn't do X, Y, and Z. And X, Y, and Z is the reason that these are going to be voided. And the main plaintiff against Missing Middle said, hey, this was never a conversation about whether we liked or didn't like the plan. It was always a procedural conversation of like, hey, you can't just by right build a sixplex, next to me without me having any sort of say in it. Okay.
Correct.
So the judge ruled that these EHO projects are not by right and actually require a special use permit. That was one of the counts that the judge ruled on. So long-winded question, Shawn. When the county appeals and they do X, Y, and Z, what do you think is going to happen? Because this seems like a long, drawn-out process where even if they do, I'm going to answer my own question, even if they do X, Y, and Z, another lawsuit's going to pop up. Another lawsuit's going to pop up. So what are your thoughts on that?
Well, it's one of those topics that is very divisive. People are angry on either side, and I get it. And I can see, believe me, I can see both sides. I want to put it out there. There's nothing wrong with townhouses. There's nothing wrong with condos. There's nothing wrong with single-family homes. They're all great spots. But I think the argument is the aesthetics of a neighborhood. Now, you brought up a point that said that Arlington County fast-tracked this. They didn't do the due diligence that they should have. Could you imagine if a builder did not do the due diligence that they should have and tried to build on a plot of land? What would Arlington County do? They would stop it, right? So don't you think that Arlington County would have had the knowledge and the know-how to actually go through this the right way? I think they would have. I think they should have, and they didn't. And why didn't they? Why didn't they? That's the question to ask. They knew what they had to do. They should have done studies to see how this is going to affect multiple spaces, either parking, sewage, runoff, all this stuff, schools. They didn't do the due diligence that they should have, and they know they should have. Why didn't they do that? Because they tried to push it. They tried to push it forward without having a consensus. And that's the problem with this. And that's why people are so angry about it, is because you didn't do what you require everybody else to do, which is do your due diligence. Make sure that you're doing the right thing. And so when it's pushed on people, naturally people are going to have a reaction of, wait a second, I don't necessarily want this. How is this happening? So I think that's the main problem. And should they have known to do this? Yeah, it's Arlington County. They should have known that they had to do this. Why didn't they? Because they wanted it, and they pushed it.
They had to have known a lawsuit was coming. Like half of Arlington are attorneys.
Yeah.
Like half the people living here, love lawsuits.
Matt, can I bring up a point? And this is another thing. If Arlington County wanted the Missing Middle, the EHO project to go through, I have some things that, why didn't we go this route? And so everybody, maybe people don't know, but there's this single family home area just off Wilson Boulevard. It's called The Grove. The Grove.
So by Upton Hill.
By Upton Hill, right across from Upton Hill. The Grove was a historic site. It was a huge plot of land. I believe it was like 8 acres or something like that.
Well, hold on. Historic is air quotes because they tried to turn it into a historic site, an actual historic site, so that it couldn't be torn down.
Correct.
Before that. But I hear what you're saying.
Yeah. So
air quotes
it wasn't
historic.
necessarily a historic site, and people were angry that it got torn down and whatever. But that was a big plot of land right on a corner. And what happened, and I believe this was right around the same time where the Missing Middle was happening, and then this plot of land was sold. And what did they build on this plot of land? Toll Brothers purchased this plot of land, and they are currently building 40 single-family homes, okay? If Arlington wanted more housing, why didn't they rezone this to say, Toll Brothers, we want you to build a multi-use facility, a condo building, townhouses, and single-family homes? Why wasn't that proposed at that time? I don't know. I'm just asking because this came about at the same time, and it wasn't forced or it wasn't pushed on them to say, hey, we need more housing. Why are you building 40 single-family homes on this plot? When if you and I went past there, we already know that it's not really a single family area, right? It's like they're creating a new plot of a new single family market where they're selling for $2 million a piece. And if you and I, as realtors, were saying, hey, should we buy this and build a $2 million house? We'd have been like, no, you're not going to get $2 million out of that, right? But they forced it and they pushed it. And now if you look, all of the ones along the main roads are sold, but the interior ones are not because they're more expensive. And no one really wants to live there. If you would have built the townhouses and the things that people would have been able to afford in that area and that were better for that area, then they would have sold better. And honestly, the builder would probably made more money, and so would the county because of the tax record. So I don't understand. And basically, I'm not a lawyer. I'm not a county person to say what zoning happens and how that happens. But that was a huge plot of land. It was a huge opportunity for Arlington County to maybe do something different there. But instead, maybe they were I don't know. Maybe they built 40 single-family homes.
So a private developer built 40 single-family homes. They could have built 40. They could have built 5. Once it's a private developer, they can do whatever they want with it. Now, the plot of land was for sale at one point, and the county considered purchasing it. And for whatever reason, they did not want to purchase it. So I'm in favor of Arlington County purchasing as much land as possible. Like there's a house the county just purchased by Barcroft Park to expand the park. I don't know. It was sold for $900. The county paid 1.2 or something like that. Do you have something to say about that?
Yeah, actually, I do. So this is another point, and I'm glad you brought this up because Arlington County owns a lot of land, and they're looking to buy land. And what are they looking to do with that land most of the time?
Well, one is stormwater.
Stormwater, okay.
One is to help with the stormwater runoff.
So help with the stormwater runoff. So wouldn't you think that by adding multiple properties per lot, that's going to add to the stormwater problem? It could. I don't know. But they're doing this to preempt a stormwater problem. Number 2, what do you think their other land use would be if they purchase property?
Well, hold on. Okay, so you're running, you're taking my point, and you're running away with it. So getting back to it, what I was saying is the Grove, Dominion Hills, 40 new houses, single family homes, wide streets, large lots, whatever, $2 million. I'm in favor of the county always buying houses whenever they're come available. People get upset, they're overpaying, market value. What's the market value going to be in 10 years? It's going to be so much more expensive. Yeah. So the fact that Arlington County passed on purchasing the Febrey-Lothrop house was a big mistake in my mind. What they should have done is buy the land, partner with a developer, and whatever type of missing middle EHO expanded housing options they wanted to build, they could have built it there. 100%. Whether it's single family houses, a row of townhouses, multifamily buildings, whatever amount of density. Because once you start allowing random amounts of high density in areas that have never seen that before, you're going to get immediate pushback. Right? Yeah. You're just opening up the floodgates. It's I'm trying to think, am I in favor of missing middle? Am I not in favor? I think I'm in favor of a highly edited missing middle plan with much more stringent regulations.
Sure.
Everything, whether it's parking, whether it's, locations relevant to metro. We don't need 6 plexes, in upper North Arlington that has no public transportation access.
Exactly.
Just like if there's a South Arlington neighborhood that doesn't have good transportation access. If any neighborhood in Arlington doesn't have good transportation access, those 6 plexes and 4 plexes need to be near major corridors. So, to your point, once Arlington County passes on a swath of land, the private developer is going to do whatever's going to make the most sense from a monetary standpoint in a free market, which tells me that when they looked at the single-family houses, which, by the way, missing middle wasn't approved at that point, so it was obvious that they were going to go single-family houses there for the Grove.
Yeah, but it was probably in the minds of the Arlington County area or Arlington County itself to do missing middle at the time. So I'm just kind of equating that. But, Arlington County still has to approve that. They can't just buy the land and build what they want because they can, but they have to get approval. But my other point was, and yes, I agree with you 100%. I think an edited version of this would be fine. On main roads.
So let's talk about an edited version. If Shawn Battle was in charge of missing middle, what are some of the things where you could say, you know what, I really didn't like this about the first iteration, we'll call it, but if they did this, then I could see a way of that working?
I think one of the things was I don't mind it on main or busier roads.
Let's talk about that.
Number one.
Because I have that as well. Corridors on corridors of higher density.
Correct.
So roads like Glebe, George Mason, Washington Boulevard, Wilson. Again, when I say Glebe, I mean Glebe from like 29 all the way down to, Route 1. Basically, I don't mean Glebe, Walker's Chapel, Arlington Wood. I mean Glebe where there's high density, where there's lots of transportation options. George Mason, Washington Boulevard, Wilson. There's just no reason. Like, all right, so you have these houses that were built in the 1940s that are on Wilson, that are on Glebe, that are on George Mason. And if a builder buys it, they're going to have such a difficult time to sell a single-family new construction McMansion right on North Glebe Road. It's just not what the market wants, and so there needs to be a way to encourage density along the main corridors where the single-family houses don't sell well. So I don't
100%.
I don't know what that looks like in terms of tax breaks or making it easy, or there needs to be some sort of way when a property on Glebe goes up for sale and a developer's looking at it, they would think to themselves, I would be an idiot if I didn't do 3 townhouses here, or if I didn't do 2, like a duplex here, especially coming out of the 66 exit in Ballston. When you're looking at the single family houses near the gas station and Washington Boulevard, there's like 4 or 5 houses there. They got to be 1,300 square feet at most. So I'm just thinking this is a colossal waste of this density so close to the metro.
Yeah, 100%. So the denser areas make sense. So I can see it happening there. Where I don't agree with it is, like you said, plopped in the middle of a neighborhood. And you can understand why people would have such a problem with that. The people that own those plots of land would have a problem with it because, I've gone through this before where I couldn't afford Arlington, my first purchase. I couldn't afford it. I bought somewhere else and I waited years and years. And it took me a long time. I bought and sold and bought and sold. And then finally I bought this single family home in Arlington, and I'm proud of that home. That took me a long time, a lot of work, years and years, decades to afford that. And now somebody wants to come and build something next to me that could possibly bring my value down, bring the use of my property, change the use of my property in a way that puts more cars on my street. It's not as nice for my kids to go out and play. I'm telling you, like when you're walking down the street to the bus stop, like there's already cars parked on there. It's not safe. I don't have sidewalks.
So what would you do from a parking standpoint? How would you change the parking?
You have to require a garage and a driveway for each property, because there can't be one car. Let's face it. Most families are going to have 2 cars. So you have to then make sure that people can park 2 cars on that property. One in the garage, one in the driveway. That should be a requirement, because we cannot have more cars on the streets. It's not safe. And some of these neighborhoods don't have sidewalks. So the kids are walking to school in the street when cars are coming down. And I see it all the time because my kids are going to school. We walk to school. And so it's difficult in that range. So you have to think about these kind of things. I know people want change, and change is great, but also change can be difficult, and change is always going to hurt somebody. It's always going to have a negative effect to somebody. And so you have to listen to that person to say, listen, how is this going to affect you negatively? And how can we go forward so that it doesn't? And so you have to hear every voice. And I think that Arlington County went through it the wrong way, and they pissed a lot of people off that would maybe have been for it in some sort of way. And so then this brings up another point. And you were saying that Arlington County should buy up more and more land. And I agree with you. And I think they made a colossal mistake as well with not buying that plot of land where the Grove is now, because they could have done so many things with it. But the other thing is, what if we changed this up and we said to the Arlingtonians and said, hey, we are now going to take away one of the greatest things that makes Arlington great is its parks. And we are going to start building on those parks because we need more density. We need more density because, listen, we have 152 parks, and we don't need 152 parks. So what we're going to do is we're going to start taking those things away, and we're going to start building townhouse and different things. What if that happened, right? Do you think people would be okay with that, or would they be up in arms about it? They would probably be up in arms about it, right? And this is the thing, that change is difficult, and change is difficult on different parts of people wanting different things. And so when you take away single-family zoning, you're hurting a certain aspect of Arlingtonians that don't want that. And if you took away parks, you would change Arlington for why people love it, and you would piss off a lot of people in that regard. So you have to be careful. You can't just push this thing through. Let's find a right way to do it. Let's go through all the sources, and let's find the right way going forward.
Yeah, the whole parks, if we wanted to, get affordable housing right, we would pave over Central Park in New York City and just build on top of the lakes there. So, obviously every parcel of land is not, built for housing.
Correct.
So, Shawn, this will most likely get appealed. It'll most likely be strung up in the courts for a long time. And I don't know when we're going to see the next duplex. I don't know when we're going to see the next, 3-unit townhouse that used to be a single family house. And even if some of these go through, this is not going to make an impact in the amount of building and amount of houses necessary to even make a dent in, creating more options for the quote unquote middle class. Because, we're talking about turning a single family house into 3 townhouses. It's like, all right, a 2.3 house versus a $1.3 million townhouse. I don't know if the advocates who were standing in front of the county board, wailing and wanting, missing middle, I don't know if they fully understood that what they're really hoping for were $1.3 million houses. Like, I don't know. So the affordability aspect is clearly not that's affordable.
And it's
right?
funny because at one point, and if you go back and listen, at one point they were pushing the affordability thing, but then they were like, no. And they actually like pulled the race card and things, right? Oh, it's racist if you don't do this. And like, come on, man, you can't do that to people. You can't put race into this thing and say, you're against it because of this. It's just not fair. We're against it because it's going to affect us in a negative way because of our property values or because of the aesthetics of the neighborhood. We bought here because this is how we love our neighborhood, But the other thing is, if you want density, there are dense areas. There's right along the RB corridor, that's density, all right? But what's along the RB corridor right now? There's car dealers with an open lot.
I can't wait for those to go away.
You know what I mean?
Well, that was Clarendon, in 2000, right?
Yeah, right. So those are the areas where you could build a 400-unit building and supply 400 units in a small plot of land. So that's where we should start getting more dense, and we're building and building, and if you look, but what are they mostly? Most of them are rentals. They're not allowing purchase and homes. And so maybe the next building has to be condos or has to be some sort of ownership in this. I don't know.
I like that most of them are rentals. You see the rent prices around here. People are always complaining about rent. Well, how do you get lower rent? You build more supply, right? Not an econ major, but you have more supply, to try to match the demand. And price would hopefully stabilize or go down. But
those prices are pretty high.
Yeah, but you're saying, hey, why don't we see more condos or let's build the next one condo? No, we need so many apartments. Like I think I was reading an Ask Eli article about this as well, and he was saying, well, we don't really need to incentivize more 1-bedroom apartment buildings with the 6-unit buildings. Well, I'm thinking 1-bedroom apartments are expensive, and if we want to encourage home ownership. Well, it's very difficult to do that when you need to spend like $2,500 a month on your starter 1-bedroom apartment, right? So we get more 1-bedroom apartments, and that'll help out with the savings aspects of those people, that are coming right out of college or that are just starting their journey.
Yeah, I mean, this isn't a simple answer. There's no simple answer on this. It's difficult. And if the argument is to create home ownership, I don't know what the argument is. I think the argument for Arlington County was we need more housing. But what came with that was, we need affordable housing. We need, is it that they want to have these people be able to purchase this? Or is it, we just need more housing and we don't care what kind of housing that is. We just need more of it. I don't know.
I think it was more housing. And I think Arlington struggled with the packaging of how they wanted to deliver that of, it's missing middle for the middle class.
Right.
And then, it's actually missing middle for that middle segment of housing inventory of houses versus... it's actually expanded housing options of being able to be free to do whatever type of property you would like to on your own property. So there was a lot of struggle with the packaging and
Yeah.
the marketing of this. And now that we're seeing what types of properties, and it's only a handful that were approved for EHO, it's clear that affordability is not going to be something that's coming out of this.
Arlington's not affordable. It's not. I mean, let's face it. It's very expensive to live here, and anything that you build is going to be expensive. And so that's just the way it is. So rents are expensive. I don't know how to alleviate that. That's a tough problem. I don't know how to make it more affordable for people to live here. I couldn't live here, like I said,
well,
at the very
you
beginning.
do the opposite of what we have. So we have great parks, and we have great schools, we have great jobs, we have a great economy.
Yeah.
What do the inexpensive places in America have?
Horrible economies, bad schools, no parks.
Bad safety.
Right.
So
there's always a detriment to one side, and that's what the point was. It's like if you want more density, you're going to get something in the in the opposite side of things, and not always, but yeah, exactly.
all right, Shawn, you said for ways you would want to improve, assuming this does get appealed, assuming there are changes. You said, parking is a significant issue. You mentioned density along corridors. You mentioned, double checking stormwater issues, schools, things of that nature. Anything else you would change in terms of, re-looking at the missing middle?
Well, a lot of people were against the tree canopy, that kind of thing. I mean, that's going to happen.
The tree
no matter
canopy.
That's going to happen whether it's a single family or I think it's a pretty bad argument. I don't know because listen, the single families are pulling down.
I
the
haven't
trees
brushed up on my tree canopy
anyways. Yeah,
laws.
I haven't either. So I don't think that's a great argument. I don't know if they're not allowed to build a bigger structure.
It can only be the same footprint as whatever could have been allowed before.
I mean, you have to show people the due diligence that you've done to prove that that it's not going to affect them in a negative way in the future. And having an expert to say, oh, this, and that's what they did in their argument. They had a sewer expert to say Arlington County's fine. But you haven't done any studies to prove that. You can have an expert all you want, but we need, as far as Arlingtonians and people making decisions on this, we need proof. And that's what a lot of people want. So if you can show us that proof, show us how it's going to affect us, show us how it's going to affect our neighborhoods, and will it affect the aesthetics of the neighborhood? Will it affect the density and the parking and the schools? You have to think about all of these things, and you have to do the studies to show and prove to us that this is okay. Because we already know that our schools are overcrowded.
So you would say a better communication between the county
100%.
and the community.
Why are you doing this? Is it for affordability? Apparently not, but that was one of the issues at the beginning. Is it for density? Yeah, okay, it's for density. Okay, so then you have to prove to us how that density is going to affect our schools, our sewage, our water runoff, and show us in exact things, the studies that you've done. That's what you have to do in order to have a public consensus about this. Otherwise, you're always going to get people that are going to push against it.
All right, Shawn. Well, we've gone on for a little bit. I'm sure we could go on for a lot more.
Yeah, we could.
And get a lot off our chest here. But I think this is a good place to stop because this is so new and fresh, this decision, that we really don't know. We can assume that the county's going to appeal, or are they going to give up after all this back and forth and money spent and lawyer fees and whatnot? I don't think so, but
I don't think so either.
if the county appeals and then there's, it's overruled and then there's another lawsuit, at what point are we just, hitting each other over the head and going in circles? So again, not looking for an answer right now, but I'll open it up to you in the comment section below. Let us know your thoughts and if you agree or disagree with some of the things that Shawn and I said. And for Shawn and myself, thank you so much for watching. Until next time, we'll see you then.
Take care.